Floor muscles. The pelvic floor muscles help modulate intra-abdominal pressure and stiffness of the sacroiliac joints. All right, so how awesome is that? The pelvic floor is helping you stabilize your SI joints. The pelvic floor muscles contribute to control of the lumbar spine and the pelvis. All right, so they help control the lumbar spine and the pelvis. And the pelvic floor muscles contribute to both postural and respiratory functions. What a great study. I love it. It's like a win. We all need pelvic floor strength. All right, so let's look at how they do this. I love this picture. Really breaks it down. Super simple. All right, so you've got your piriformis that sits here. Okay, it's not here in the picture, but that's where the piriformis sits. Then you've got your coccygeus, and you've got your levator ani group again. Okay, if we look at the base of the spine, okay, we have our sacrum here and our coccyx, and we look at that pelvic floor attaching into the base of our spine. To me, it looks like the rudder of a ship. Okay, so let's say one side of your pelvic floor is a lot tighter than the other side. What do you think is going to happen to that rudder of that ship? Right? It's going to pull it off to one side. What do you think that's going to do to that SI joint? Okay, so you're looking at a primary cause of SI joint dysfunction here is the pelvic floor. So that's pretty cool. So we've got to keep that rudder strong, which is what this class is all about, is getting that rudder strong. We're going to talk a lot about your abdominal canister. And your abdominal canister is basically your abdomen, so your diaphragm on top, your abdominal wall forming a circle, and then your pelvic floor on the bottom. Really great. And the diaphragm muscle should not be seen as a segment, but as part of a body system. Right, so the diaphragm works as part of the entire body. The transverse abdominal muscles, along with the respiratory diaphragm and the pelvic floor, play a significant role in the stability of the SI joints. So your diaphragm affects your SI joint. Just putting that out there. How awesome and how crazy is that? Right? So when we look at training people and we look at making people strong, when we talk about core strength, having proper core activation, the diaphragm is playing a huge role in that. And so there are better ways to contract their core and there are worse ways. And that is some of the stuff I'm going to take a look at. All right. A great 2015 study showed the correlation between the contraction of the pelvic floor muscles and diaphragmatic motion during breathing. Okay, so this was a really, really cool study and also one you should look up. All right, so the diaphragmatic motion and contraction of the pelvic floor muscles correlate with breathing. And in addition, breathing is much more effective during contraction of the pelvic floor. All right, so I'm gonna say that again. Breathing is much more effective during contraction of the pelvic floor. The catch here is, though, is that the pelvic floor contraction has to be natural, which then means it has to be automatic. Okay, so there's a pretty fun thing that I like to do in my classes that I teach is I hand out balloons and I have everybody blow up a balloon and tell me what their pelvic floor is doing. And the reason why I have them blow up a balloon is because you can usually feel your pelvic floor working more when you blow up a balloon than you can if you just blow air out into the environment. Okay, so if you don't have a balloon with you handy right now, so pause this, run grab a balloon if you have one. If you don't have a balloon handy right now, I want you to either like cup your hands so you blow into your hands, or I want you to blow out like you're pretending to blow a stiff pool float. And I want you to see what your pelvic floor does, okay? So the diaphragm puts pressure down on the pelvic floor, and the pelvic floor responds to this pressure by getting stronger and naturally moving up and down to handle the demands of life. Isn't that really cool? So the diaphragm and pelvic floor work together, all right? So blow up that balloon. What does your pelvic floor do? Does your